Well, we got big news when it came to two items on Disney+. Yes, we have the ratings for Ahsoka, and they Ahsoka'd very much. But the same cannot be said for The Little Mermaid, or can it? We are going to dive deep into the waters with Ariel to find out, did Disney do well or did they flounder when it came to the real ratings behind The Little Mermaid? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. A joy, as always, to share time with you. Yes, the ratings are out via Nielsen, and we do now know the number of minutes watched for both Ahsoka in its third week and The Little Mermaid in its debut week. There's some other stuff here that's interesting as well, including statistics for many of Netflix shows, which show that it is indeed dominating still. But Disney pegs number one with Ariel. The question now becomes, is it a solid number one when you dive in and look at, divided by the number of minutes, how many households actually tuned in? We've all been waiting to see what would happen because we're looking for a trajectory here. And we're looking for a trajectory for some significant reasons.
Look at those Suits numbers. My goodness.
Yes, and there's actually something else here that's fascinating. We'll take a look at it in a moment with The Little Mermaid. But exactly, Suits is doing incredible, and it's doing it off of reruns. We've got Virgin River, One Piece. One Piece holds strong in its second week. Still 1.3 billion, almost 1.4 billion minutes watched. So again, doing exceedingly well. One Piece in its second week beats The Little Mermaid in its first week. And I think that decimates the narrative that Disney was trying to put out there about The Little Mermaid and how well it was doing. 1.3 billion minutes for The Little Mermaid is fine. It is a theatrical release, so we're talking about 90-plus minutes. But I do think that's actually solid for The Little Mermaid. Again, though, if it is beaten by One Piece in its second week, I think that pulls the wind out of the sails of Disney and what they were trying to achieve and may give us some sort of reason for why Disney wanted to get ahead of that. Number four is no slouch, but it's still there's still something to be said for the fact that it's being beaten by Netflix so soundly. On the list, of course, we've got Bluey, we've got CoComelon down at the bottom, and Big Bang Theory continues to land in the top 10.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Little Mermaid, I'm not surprised that it's at number 4, but that's a let parents hump.
Yes,
video.
Yes.
May I suggest something also about Little Mermaid compared to past Disney movies?
You may.
When a Disney cartoon of any note, or even the original Little Mermaid, would come out, say, on Netflix or wherever, a huge percentage of the people watching were people watching it again because they saw it in the theater and loved it. I wonder what percentage of people watching this Little Mermaid showing are saying, well, we never bothered to go to the movies. I guess we'll check it out. That's a big difference,
It's a great point. And, to Paul's point, I wish we had some volume statistics to find out how much louder Little Mermaid was played for shall we say, the humpback whale moments that parents long for and love.
Yeah, for the next hour and a half, leave us alone, okay? And here's a cookie, too.
Ignore the locking of door sounds.
That's right.
One thing I'll point out is this version of The Little Mermaid is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Not that
there you go.
So
yeah.
Plenty of time.
Okay, so 2 hours and 15 minutes. And Jonas, if you would like, with your actuarial skills, if you want to start figuring out exactly how many households that indicates we're watching, you can probably figure that out pretty easily using Disney's metrics.
Well, it's 10 million views. Who knows how many? That's 10.1 million views of that particular.
10 million views. Disney had said, if I'm pulling off my memory here, Disney had said 24 million worldwide. That would indicate that Disney is suggesting that there is a 40-60 ratio domestic to international on Disney streaming The Little Mermaid. Something like that.
Yes, but Nielsen is strictly the United States and Canada, and
that's why that's what WD is saying.
Yeah, so about 20% of the U.S. subscribership of Disney Plus watched The Little Mermaid.
The other thing I would say too here is
if we're assuming that they only watched it one time, which is generally not what it is with children's viewing.
If we are to hold that the theatrical pattern is consistent here. This was a heavily domestic lifted film. It failed in international markets for reasons that we won't discuss here. But it bears some investigation in the future. We don't have time right now, though, because I know everybody out there is wanting to know about Ahsoka. And indeed, it has fallen. And we're going to talk about how bad this is. And I think this really indicates, I mean, remember, folks, this comes out on the 3rd week of Ahsoka. This is also, it happens to be about a week later that we get the announcements from Lucasfilm about the heir to the Empire, that Dave Filoni is the next George Lucas. And I wonder if it was timed this way because they had a panic. And I think they may still be in that panic, and they should be. Ahsoka not only dropped to 7th place in its 3rd week, below Who is Aaron Carter, Only Murders in the Building, Dear Child, etc., but Ahsoka also dropped in terms of total minutes watched, 459 million. That means that it dropped something like 15 to 20 million minutes watched with an additional episode. That is tremendously bad because you at least want to hold steady because you have more content for people to watch as new people join into your show and begin watching from episode 1, 2, 3, 4 because they're trying to get caught up. So if you are losing ground as your season progresses, then you really have a stinker on your hands. You have an exit. Yes.
To add to that, you're not just losing that way. You're losing the question of, well, I haven't liked it so far, but should I stick around for another episode and see if it gets any better, people, too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about where I was at this point. Episode 3, which was the 2nd week. So this is the 3rd week of Ahsoka, so episode 4. Disney makes it so easy on us.
Right.
I think this was on the decline, but ended with getting to the world between worlds, which homework for everyone who isn't up on all of that. That's what the fans really love. Homework.
They also love the world between worlds, and they didn't get that. So there you go. But however, we probably will see a bump for Ahsoka going forward on Nielsen for the next 2 episodes, as people probably did tune in to see Anakin. They did tune in to see the world between worlds. They didn't get either, I think, in a satisfactory way, but they probably will have tuned in. They will have been snookered into watching it, and then we will watch something very fascinating. We'll watch to see what happened afterwards after they realized I did not get what I thought I was going to receive. So, folks, be prepared as we keep you ahead of the culture curve here. It's what we do each and every day. You're going to see in the next week, okay, so not this week, but next week, you're going to see some percolation of stories out there across the web as the defenders of Ahsoka, the defenders of Lucasfilm, come out and talk about, oh my gosh, look at the bump in the ratings, yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you all right now, we already know it's going to happen. We know why it's going to happen. And because we know why it's going to happen, we're not going to be necessarily impressed by it. Although, you know, if it crosses the billion mark, maybe we will be. But I think given what we're watching on this early trajectory, this series came out as a bust. I want to go to Kara, though. Kara, did you watch any of Ahsoka, and what are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely not.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
Me too. I could care less.
I have lost faith in Disney Star Wars. I haven't watched anything since I think I watched the first couple episodes of Boba Fett, and that was the last thing I watched. I tried one episode of season 3 of Mando, couldn't get into it. And then I realized I wasn't missing anything with that one either. But it's been interesting seeing the people who have been enjoying Ahsoka versus the people who are actual Star Wars fans who are not enjoying Ahsoka. So
yes,
yeah.
Well, I think actually you are in a vast company of people who feel the same way, that they have already exited and they can't be pulled back. Let's take a look here. One last thing that seems interesting to me, Futurama, in its return, managing to get into the number 9 spot. I think that's interesting. Not sure
Speaking
what
of
to
zombies,
say about it. Yeah, it never dies. It never dies.
Speaks to the power of Matt Groening's signature on the production contract.
If we go to acquired, here's something interesting out of the acquired portion. We can see that Gilmore Girls comes in at 538, Call the Midwife at 517, Friends at 458. Look at the number of shows here that are completely in reruns that are either beating or are on par with Ahsoka. And then consider the return on investment that's happening here. You've got these shows which were running in syndication now on streaming, and they are absolutely doing just as well as the show that Disney has paid more than $200 million for. I think it really goes to show that that's not a winning proposition. And then The Little Mermaid just decimates everything on the movie side of things. But Netflix, this I think is also important. Disney used to be on here at least half the way because kids were, again, enjoying the company of humpback whales in their households. And so there were lots of babysitting movies on this. Today, not so much, except there's Moana yet again. So if you wonder why Disney is making a sequel to Moana or a remake or putting shows of Moana in there, that is why. Moana continues to be there, not Frozen, not Tangled. It's Moana. So that is a rundown of the Nielsen numbers.
Well, can I offer some one insight? I think that is
yes, absolutely. That's why you're here, Paul.
I know. I come up with one per show. Let's hope this is it. So, looking at this, as it's funny, the streaming reminds me a lot of the problems that we had and continue to have in Canada, and every foreign market has vis-a-vis the Hollywood juggernaut. And the painful truth is that was always easier to buy. I'm just going to throw out a number, ER for $1,000 per episode in reruns, by some network in Canada, versus the real cost of making a show from scratch, which is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that is one of the ways that Hollywood ruled the world, in that they could just give away these shows all over the world, Bahrain or whatever, for $500 an episode, and they just prevented indigenous local programming to happen. And I'm looking at your chart. I'm going, wow, this is kind of, I'm seeing streaming as kind of akin to foreign countries. So Disney, let's say, is Argentina. It's it's cheaper that Netflix streams in Suits, a network show, cheaply than it is for Disney or Netflix, for that matter, to create their own series. It's going to be way more expensive. And so that makes me think, why aren't the networks exploiting that capability that caused them to rule the world?
Yes.
Why aren't they continuing that on streaming? They're giving up that ability, that mantle, that crown, to pull off this Friends, this Suits, this NCSI thing that, well, NCSI, I mean, again, that's a stupid procedural. That's the worst of the worst. But you know what I'm talking about is that they've got the skills. The networks, even though they're doing crappy shows, have the skill to create shows that will end up on streaming much cheaper than what the streamers can make it. So anyways, it just dawned on me that this is,
I totally agree with you. Partly what needs to be done, partly, and this is what it's not manifested out there into the media coverage of this, is that you have to understand what is the ROI that's happening here. Without that rubric to understand what you're looking at, you don't understand that this is almost, I mean, it's not free, but it's, compared to Ahsoka, it's free money. Mr. Ghost, any thoughts on that one before we go to Super Chat?
Well, yeah, I'm 100% with you, Chato.
Okay.
I had a friend who was directing sitcoms when I knew him, but he had done about 2 years worth of the soap opera Santa Barbara. And one day he starts getting residual checks from Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia.
You got it.
But then they asked him to come over, paid all his expenses, gave him a big fee to be a consultant while they created their own native ripoff of it. So, but yeah, all that product is sitting there. You would think they would be smart enough, but then we know better.
I got Burt Metcalf to come to Canada to do a couple of sitcoms and teach us how to do them up here.
And that's a wrap for today, folks. But make sure you go check out the Nielsen ratings before they disappear. They're updated about every Thursday. What a nice coincidence. That's when we do the pro show and we get to analyze those as they roll out. Well, let us know down in the comments. Do you think that Ahsoka is already a bust? Do you think that The Little Mermaid actually succeeded and is swimming strong on Disney? We're going to find out as the weeks come by. Does The Little Mermaid hold or does it drop? Does Ahsoka continue to fall? And make sure to check out Valiant Renegade's analysis of this same topic as he projects out where these items might be in the future. All right, folks, like, share, subscribe, And when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell wherever you are. And whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, keep having fun.